Contact inside minimum sonar range.
Contact inside minimum sonar range, sir.
Hydrophone strong. Very strong.
Hydrophone strong, very strong, sir.
Over-revving screws.
Over-revving screws, sir.
He's trying to slip under us!
Now, Mr. Lopez.
Roll and fire, medium pattern. Roll and fire.
This stuck in the Blade Runner 2049 environment there.
In a tanning salon.
Just getting the bronzer on. So this week's film, 2020 film, directed by Aaron Schneider, written by Tom Hanks, Greyhound. Jem, you chose this one. It was released this year, released immediately onto online, I believe. It didn't have a cinematic release, obviously, for obvious reasons. Jem, why did you choose this film, first of all?
Saw the trailer, thought it looked interesting. Tom Hanks is obviously fairly well regarded, I think, by everyone on the planet at this point. And yeah, I mean, I think it was an interesting film. Interesting to see what you guys think of it, because I think there was very good parts, and there were parts that I personally would have done differently. You can tell it was made and directed by Americans for sure. Probably about as patriotic as they get. But yeah, as I said, there were definitely good elements about the film. I thought sort of pacing and the tension building was certainly very good. Is it a original screenplay? Does anyone know? Is it based on a book or anything like that?
I think it is. Is it not? Yeah, it is, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Easy adaptation to do, I suppose. But yeah, certainly very American, like you say. British accents grated on me so hard in that. The stereotype was very real.
Show, chap.
Yeah, very real.
Tea and biscuits, it definitely was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but an action film. No, very little dialogue, other than dialogue that I didn't really understand because I don't know all that kind of naval jargon. James Robbins, what did you think, or Jem?
No, I've got a question off the back of yours, like just to everyone. How close were you able to follow what was going on? Because I mean, I watched this with Jo, and her biggest complaint with this film was that she was really struggling to know what was going on. She didn't understand any of the language that was being said. Whereas I actually thought it was that they did a really good job of you being able to still follow it through the use of the radar, and they cut to the people with on the mapping station, giving the readings, using the protractors and stuff. And I was like, I can follow just through basically the way in which they're telling the story without having a Scooby-Doo as to what the hell they're actually talking about with regards to all the different terminology as such. Were you guys able to follow?
Yeah, it's very simple.
I thought it was okay. To be honest, I thought the middle section, the action scenes, and the bit with Tom Hanks, it was really compelling. I thought the music was pretty good. I mean, Tom Hanks can carry a scene on his own, really, can't he? But I think, like you said, James, they made the effort to kind of. There was a lot of kind of lateral movement in the camera shots, and like the whole crew moved to the other side, so you could kind of tell which way they were turning. So I didn't think that was too much of an issue. I think probably what we're all going to say is the wider issue is that apart from those action scenes, the rest of the film was incredibly thin, with they desperately try to crowbar in some character development or character history in scenes, and the ridiculous pan back to his wife. At
the romantic scene at the start, it was just like, go back to the little toy, and it was just like, oh, all of that.
I don't think I've ever seen a less padded out love story.
Even the relationship with half the characters, when one of them, the guy who the cook who serves him with his food and stuff, when he dies, spoiler, you're meant to be there, I think, just like, oh my god, no, he's dead. You're
not Cleveland.
You're just there like, all right, and it races through time so fast as well.
Grace.
But it makes that massive point of being like 36 hours until back in the safe zone or whatever. And then suddenly it's just like one battle goes on, and it's like 3 hours to go, and it's like, oh, okay, shit, like all this is time has flown by, and we've got a couple of action sequences. But at the end of the day, like I said, with the plot, it is literally we're going through this zone. Oh, there's an enemy. Oh, there's a missile underwater or whatever. Oh, we've managed to get away with it. Okay, carry on, and we'll do it again. Let's go again. And it's just like, is there much to it really? I don't know.
But being basically entirely action and quite, I thought that the action was well paced. There was peaks and troughs to the action, and they sort of try to explain in the troughs. They try to explain what actually happened, because you're right. Sometimes there was so much jargon. It probably was so true to the actual naval lingo that it did need a layman's explanation after each big scene. But it being only an hour and a half, it certainly didn't drag on or anything like that. And I thought the fact that it was a bit shorter went quite nicely with the fact that it was nearly entirely action. Because otherwise, if that was 2.5 hours, you'd just get burnt out completely.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I actually think for the first time out of all the films that we've watched, like since we've been reviewing, I came out of it going, I wanted that to be a little bit longer. Like, it would have been a better film if it was a bit longer.
With more padding to characters and stuff like that, or more action.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it needed any more action. The whole film was basically one great big long action sequence. But to the point that you made earlier, Guy, like, or it might have been Tom, I can't remember, but the emotional punch to some of those scenes was completely diminished because I just had absolutely no attachment to any of those characters.
Yeah.
Number one, and number two, like, I just didn't buy any of their relationships. Like this opening scene, as we all discussed, like such a thin kind of relationship building scene. But I also just didn't get that she rated him at all. I was kind of like, this feels like a very one-sided relationship. I feel like you, Tom Hanks, really dig her, and she's just getting you some budget slippers, and there's not really much else that I'm getting out of the relationship.
I think the trouble with it being so thin on the ground with a lot of the character building was, although there were these great action scenes, if characters died, if the character was to die, you wouldn't be that fussed, because you don't know anything about them, you don't know their story, you don't know the background, and that makes it more of almost makes it a documentary, like a History Channel type thing, when it's just showing the events as opposed to getting to the personal conflict that some people have. And Tom Hanks was the only character you got a little bit about.
Just about to say that, Jem. Do you feel like Tom Hanks? Do you even feel like if Tom Hanks died, they developed him enough to be like, oh no, he's dead, or is it just because you go, oh no, Tom Hanks is dead? Like, is it his character, or would it just be the fact that it's Tom Hanks that we like him in the first place? I mean,
bled out from his feet at the end. It would have been interesting.
Yeah, because it was just he's just Tom Hanks really in it he just is Tom Hanks.
He is Tom Hanks.
And they don't really even make a massive issue about the fact that this is his first passage. Like, they don't reflect on anything about him being amateur at it at all. Like, before it all happens, then it happens. Then at the end, he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, that was my first passing," and they're all like, "Oh, jolly good show, old chap, well done." And he's like, "Cool, all right, that's it." Like,